In this video, I'm going to go over Game 4 from Prep Test 75. In this one, we have quite a few different layers. So we have a newsletter that has 5 slots. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have probably a sequencing element. And the policy of the newsletter requires that there are at least 3 features per issue. So the issue has 5 slots, but we have a minimum of 3 features. And then each feature completely occupies 1 or more of the slots. So it's not possible to have half of a slot be occupied. Each feature can be one of 4 types. Okay, so we have 3 features and each feature is one of 4 types. So we could have a finance feature, we could have an industry feature, a marketing feature, or a technology feature. Okay. Each feature could be one of 4 types. We don't know that all of those types have to be used at this point, and we don't know whether or not we could have one or more of the same type of feature within the issue. So because they haven't eliminated those as possibilities, we have to assume that that's still open-ended. Any slot not containing a feature contains a graphic. Okay, so if not F, then G, if not G, then F. So each slot either contains a feature or part of a feature, if a feature occupies more than 1 slot, or a graphic. So a graphic or a feature for each of those. And that there was just our Koch positive. All right, the newsletter's policy further requires that each issue be structured as follows. So here we have additional rules. So before we even get to these 3 rules, we have a lot of information that's thrown at us. So it's important not to go too quickly through the little blurbs on the logic games, because sometimes there's really important information packed in there, and we have to make sure that we are eliminating possibilities as we go through that blurb, rather than assuming that we're dealing with sort of a standard game with like a 1-to-1 ratio of players to positions, 5 players, 5 positions, something like that. We don't want to assume that every time we have a player listed that player has to occur in the game, or that player only occurs once. So we do have to be careful not to just get stuck with sort of what we might think of as like the standard rules or the standard setup in logic games. All right, so the first rule out of these 3 at the end is that any feature occupying more than 1 slot must occupy consecutively numbered slots. So if we have a feature that occupies multiple slots, they have to be consecutive. Okay, so if the first feature number 1, let's say it's a finance feature, if that feature occupies 2 slots, it would occupy slot 1 and slot 2. If it occupies 3, it would also occupy slot 3. What it can't do is it can't jump. So we can't have feature 1 start here and then skip feature 2 and have like a second page of it, but there's like a graphic in between or something. That's not allowed. So if we think about this in terms of like the actual context where they're saying it's a newsletter, we can think of the slots as pages. And so what they're saying here is that if you start a story, you have to continue it on the next page if you're going to continue it, or you finish it off as a single page story. So we're not going to be breaking up the stories by like breaking up one whole story by adding graphics or putting the other feature in the middle of it or something like that. So this scenario where we have it just continuing to 3, that's that's fine. This scenario here where we would like skip one and put a graphic in between, not allowed. So consecutive slots. Okay, so I spent a lot of time explaining what this rule means, but in terms of actually diagramming it, you would just try to understand the meaning and make a note like consecutive slots or something like that. Because this is how we would sort of expect things to go, then I don't think that it really runs like super contrary to our intuition or like natural tendencies. So probably just having like a small note and thinking about it for a moment is going to be enough here, as long as you're interpreting what they're saying correctly. Okay. The next rule, if an issue has any finance or technology feature, so if we have a feature that's finance or we have a feature that's technology, then finance or technology has to occupy slot 1. So slot 1 has to be either finance or technology. Okay, so if slot 1 is not finance and not technology, okay, so it's neither of these, then we don't have any finance and we don't have any technology. Okay. So if, for example, slot 1 is a marketing feature, then that would mean that we don't have any finance and we don't have any technology features in the whole issue. So that's just an example. All right, the last rule, an issue can have at most one industry feature, so maximum one industry feature per issue. And note that an individual feature could be occupying more than one slot. So it doesn't say that we have a maximum of one slot occupied by an industry feature. We have a maximum of one industry feature. So it's kind of like one story that occupies more than one page rather than two stories on the same topic. Okay. So keeping that straight is important. The feature is different from the slot. Features can occupy one or more slots. Okay. So this one is definitely unusual, right? It's quite a difficult game. I think, yeah, it would be probably rated in like the highest category if you're rating difficulty of games. I mean, it could definitely make a list of like, you know, the top 20 most challenging games, or the top 20 that you should be exposed to before you write the exam, because it's so challenging. So it does require you to really think things through the entire time that you're setting up your board. Okay, so I'll stop here for now so you at least get the setup, and if you have any questions about this, please let me know. And then I'll make another video dealing with some of the questions so you can see how we would actually apply the rules.